Let's spar. All right. Because you are my guest, you get to decide if you want to go first or second. So let me show you
Okay.
question number one. All right. We're gonna we're gonna talk about the elderly. We had a good segue by starting with talking about my uncle. Let's talk about the elderly. Are the elderly out of touch?
Yes, I think that the elderly are definitely out of touch. Technology be evolving these days, and the elderly really just can't adapt to the way that, now generations are living their lives. Um, Speaking about technology, you see smartphones, you see computers, and you see everything like that, which the elderly really cannot seem to figure out because there are so many problems evolving in within how the elderly is acting with this technology, and it's definitely not so great. And also the way that we're kind of living our lives right now, it's very fast paced, which kind of eliminates the reasons that the elderly are sorry, which kind of leads into the reasons why the elderly are are out of touch right now because they cannot adapt to the lives that are so fast, they're so ongoing because they lived in a world as young people where it's more slow, where it's not really advancing as fast as we are right now.
I see where you're coming from. Yes, it's true. Technology, when I was young, there was no cell phone or internet or anything like that. So their generation, the one before mine, for them, it's completely foreign. And so my dad, it's true. It took him a long time to figure out how to use a cell phone. And for a little while, he thought people were following him around because of the algorithms. He thought, I didn't tell anyone where I was going to be. Why do they know I'm here? Who's there? He kept looking around. And I also remember that one time they finally figured out how to enlarge their screen because they couldn't read the text. And I said, look, you can
Yes.
go like this. And they're like, what? So in that sense, but at some point along the journey, my dad became my technical support. He figured out the computer and smartphone better than me. And then when I had issues, I would ask him. So I think they're able to adapt. And you said, you know, they can't adapt to our current fast-paced life, but maybe we're the ones who are out of touch as young people living so fast. Sometimes I think it makes more sense to slow things down and do things the good old-fashioned way.
Sometimes it does. However, our generation, we have a lot in our lives, and I think because we have so much stuff that we're doing this fast-paced thing, and it's just helping us achieving more throughout our daily lives. And
I don't
why I
know.
say
I
the
think it's
elderly,
like, is that the goal, to achieve more in our daily lives? Shouldn't we slow down? Aren't all our kids stressed out? The pioneers, they lived a nice, simple, slow life. And sometimes the best way to go forward is to go backwards. And the elderly people are the closest to that good, virtuous way of living.
yes, because in their society, they've already like fulfilled a very accomplished life for most of them, actually. But we sense the sense of achievement when we've like fulfilled things, when we fulfilled like materialism, when we fulfilled, freedom, right? And that comes on when, we're living a fast-paced life, which the elderly really cannot reach at this state of time.
Really, Ellen?
What?
Do you really?
Well,
Is there something like, what's the great reward of living this super fast-paced life with digital dots and beeps and booms? And what's the big reward for that? Tell me.
uh, I think that, you kind of like stack achievements when you're going faster, right? You
Is it
know,
a real achievement though, like that, because
is
you
it
got
not?
likes and subscribers? Is that a real? Does that motivate you to do more because of you got more subscribers?
It does actually. And I think the same goes for a lot of things I do in my life, including debating, right? The more I do it, the more time I spend on it. And the faster I kind of elevate in the sense of speaking, the more achievement I get and fulfillment I
On
get
this one,
from
I
my
think the
speaking.
elderly themselves would find a bone to pick with your point, because
Yes.
I think they would find this type of validation that you get from social media and all this fast-paced life kind of hollow and
Yes.
insincere. It's like these people who like you don't even know you. And that like is so hollow just because it gives you some sense of validation. They would say you're seeking validation because you're not getting validation, and so you need to find it somewhere, and it's kind of like a shameless self-promotion that you're doing, which ultimately is going to lead to you feeling empty and hollow and insecure.
Unfortunately, that is kind of the truth, with people on social media right now. Not targeting anyone. We're all in the same pot. We really
Well,
like
to
we
be
want the
fair, I don't have
validation from
anyone who
people.
watches my podcast, so uh,
We all go from there. I think that, you know, with the content, I've actually watched a lot of the podcasting on YouTube, but with the content going on, I think that it will elevate pretty quickly.
Eleanor, on a side note, do you
Mm-hmm.
think it would ever be possible that, because I keep thinking maybe sometime, somewhere, one of these YouTube videos from this podcast is going to make its way into the mainstream, and people
Mm-hmm.
will discover, hey, here's a place where we can go and talk about life. And it's one of those things. It's like parents don't understand why so many kids want to come to my debating class, because
Yeah.
their intuition is debating. It's not what it seems like. It's more like life coaching. It's more like talking about wisdom and quotes of the day and proverbs. And kids are hungry for this. So I keep waiting. Are people going to discover me that are hungry for some meaningful discourse and tired of all of this empty, hollow? So is it possible that it's going to find its way to the mainstream one day?
I think that in a realistic sense, knowledge, an pack of information, a pack of knowledge that is being launched into like the whole techno society is going to become the mainstream. Perhaps not in the short term, but there are going to be a distinct group of audience in which they seek knowledge, right? Sometimes I stop at an educational video and I'm like, this is very interesting. Here is some knowledge that I will never use in my life, but hey, I like this, right? Because this knowledge is interesting, and there are always going to be people that find whatever we're talking about or
Yeah,
whatever debating is
yeah.
interesting and helpful.
But sometimes even when I like watching the Young Turks independent media channel, because even when I don't like what they're talking about or I don't care what they're talking about, sometimes I just feel like I just want to be around these familiar people that I like. And they're so friendly, and it almost feels like they're my friends, and you're just listening, and it's better than being alone. And I was hoping someday somebody is going to think that about me and my guests, right? They say, hey, I like this guy. He's always in a good mood. He's always bringing out conversations. Let's put him in the background. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
so
yeah.
far it has not happened. And I guess my biggest view was 195 on YouTube.
That's
But
pretty good for someone that started, you know?
on TikTok, I have made that little breakthrough, but I don't even know if it's real or is it bots. But on TikTok, I've gone up to 2,500 views.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
All right.
I actually
Oh,
don't know. I actually don't know if they use bots on TikTok, but that's impressive. Honestly, that's really impressive.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I aim to impress. All right. Next up,
Ooh, round two.
would you send your daughter to an all girls school? Well, Eleanor, I ask you this very personal question because you went to this all-girls school, Branksome Hall, and I know you
Yes.
didn't go there. Your entire high school career wasn't there, so you've dabbled in private schools and public schools. You know very well. You have insight into both worlds. Knowing everything that you know, would you send your daughter to Branksome Hall, an all-girls school?
I'm gonna say no to this.
Do you want to go first? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Um, so no, I think that I would not send my daughter to an all-girls school. As someone who's been in all-girls school myself, I think that the environment is quite, yes, it's very educationally profounded. Everyone is, trying to do their best within, the academic area. However, people who have really lived their life in an all-girls school hasn't seen the other part of the world where, male creatures exist. So I think that sometimes can lead to a value system in which, gender inequality comes in which people are discriminative towards the opposite gender. Same thing goes for, just all single gender schools in general. So I think that you know, an all girl school or a single gender school in general can pull someone away from society and can pull someone away from like the typical standards in which, all sorts of um, genders exist, in which all identities exist, and you know kind of pull them
Okay.
away from
Well,
inhibiting
so to me,
society.
it just seems like similar to what we talked about earlier with gay people. So should we have to, um, you know, know that they're gay or hear about their sexual orientation. Why should schools talk about discrimination against males? Like, shouldn't school be a safe haven, a safe place to learn? And why does it have to be a perfect microcosm of society? The goal is to learn, not to be perfectly adapted to every situation possible. And so a lot of, I guess, girls would be distracted by male students, and that would take away from the learning. And so, maybe certain people are not going to be forthcoming and open about their thoughts because they know that male students are listening in the class. And we know that the hormones are running wild, and parents want their kids to learn, not to be obsessing over the guys in their class all day long. And so I don't know. And I think there's lots of opportunity in society after school to assimilate and respect all people. But maybe school, is a good idea like this.
Really, for our, my age, people my age, school is a big part of our social interaction and really covers most part of it, actually. And I think that, if you're not able to inhibit into society and really, really express the situations in which you're going to face um, after you get out of school, what is the meaning of school, right? It's to educate people to actually be prepared for what they're going
But
to
can't
face
you
after school.
separate it? Like, aren't there opportunities to like mix with males outside of school, in the workforce, in your job, after school? Why does it all have to be meshed together? Like, don't isn't there a reason? Can't you understand the reason why your parents put you into the Branksome Hall?
I do understand, and I think that my parents put me in there because, they think that just all girls schools give a good, better education. Um, which I think that, yes, sure, but um, in the long term, people are really, really not adapting to whatever is going on in, like, a mixed gender school.
Well, all right. So tell me then from your personal experience, like what are the pitfalls of an all-girls school that people don't see on the surface?
Um, I want to try to frame this in a way that sounds really more ethical, but a lot of people in all girls schools, they haven't been interacting with people of the opposite gender. Um, and they have quite a mitigated view of people of the opposite gender, which I think is sometimes a little bit toxic. At the same time, they're kind of like putting themselves in danger because of the way that they see the opposite gender.
Okay, but
Like there's
in
not enough
danger, really?
interaction.
Don't these kids all go to the fancy universities and end up getting great jobs? Like, what's the danger? You know,
Yeah,
the
yes, but when you get out of like an all-girls school and you go into university, and that's when you hit your like legal drinking age, and that's when, everything is going on, then
oh,
there
so
comes
you're
the
saying
problem, right?
it's kind of like when you don't let kids drink alcohol and suddenly they're allowed to drink alcohol in their first year
Yes,
university, then they go binge drink, and that's the danger. So
yes,
okay, okay. How
yes,
about in the all-girls school, when there's no guys around, do girls treat each other differently? Is it
yes.
for better or for worse? I don't know.
I My personal experience, I would say it's for worse because, you know, there although there are no presence of guys, there are always words of specific guys. And people can be really toxic towards each other when it comes to like the opposite gender and when it comes to like, you know, attraction and like liking.
And
So,
I've noticed that all girls schools hire male teachers, and I wonder if
oh
that's a
yes.
legal thing. Like, I don't think you're allowed to discriminate or bring on lawsuits, but there are male teachers. Is that somehow, does that negate the whole idea of an all girls school, or do people question that, or is that just sort of part and parcel
Well,
of it?
I think people kind of just accept the fact that there are male teachers because, when we're saying all girls, we kind of just mean the students, and there's always like male staff in there of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if it was all female teachers, to me, that would actually make sense because a woman understands the needs of a girl. They see themselves and so when you have an all girls school, but then you add male teachers, to me, it kind of subtracts from this whole concept of an all girls school. I don't know. Maybe that's a different debate. All right, let's move along. The third one today. Oh, this was in the news not too long ago. So this is, people in the world will be interested in this one. Ready? The passengers
Oh,
of
I
the
knew it was
submersible
this.
that imploded under the ocean, the pressure of the ocean. You know the story, right?
I do.
Okay. Do
Hmm.
those passengers deserve that fate? You want to go first or second?
I'll go second.
Oh, brave. Okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Oh God. Do they deserve their fate? I'm going to say yes, to the extent that we are all masters of our own destiny, and we have to accept responsibility for the choices we make, and whether those choices be small or big. In this case, they made a big choice. I mean, the billionaire who was on that vessel, the year before, he was in space in a rocket. This guy is thrill seeking, and because he's so rich, he gets to gonna go places where no people have gone before, and that has an inherent risk. And so there was a guy there that was the world's foremost authority on the Titanic, and his entire career spent fascinated about the Titanic, and that went down and all those people that were lost, and he had been down to that site dozens of times, and so here he is going down yet one more time. It's almost fateful for him, like to die in that way among the people that he's been fascinated with their deaths. It's almost poetic in a sense. So yes, and the only person I think that questionably might not have deserved the fate is the teenager who went down there on Father's Day.
I think that a lot of situations where accidents happen because of coincidence, because of something that is not be able to controlled by that people who chose to go on this ride, let's say, the word deserve really doesn't match the scenario because people, when they choose decisions, there's always an amount of risk in the decisions that people choose to take. And in this risk, there are several kinds of outcomes. And this outcome is just one of them, really mainly led by, the technical difficulties made by, whoever's controlling the submarine. And in this case, I think that the people who really chose to go on this adventure, yes, they've considered the consequences, but they don't really deserve the fate of death, especially because, you know, it's an adventure that they're looking for, and it's an adventure that we're all looking for within our lives. So there, the amount of risks that we take at the same time, we don't really deserve anything bad or any
I
consequences
disagree.
that
I think
have.
they kind of had their kodak when you make that choice, and they actually signed off on it on a waiver. Said, "I agree. This is the super dangerous. This submersible is not tested, not regulated." They made a very critical decision. It's like if you say, "I'm going to go and explore the mouth of a volcano." Anything that happens after that, it's kind of you deserve that because you made that critical choice to put yourself in that danger. And so, yeah, you're right. They couldn't control a lot of factors, but they did make that ultimate choice. And it's almost like because they're rich that happened to them.
Yeah, well, yes, they did, but really it's a technical difficulty that was, yeah, in control of another person, right? That another person, except for these passengers themselves, made this mistake, which ultimately says that, okay, yes, we're taking
Well,
this
yeah, I
risk,
think
but we're
ultimately
not.
the mistake they made was thinking that they were kind of impervious to these dangers and that their money would insulate them. And we've seen this so many times for different rich people. Like Prince
Oh,
died,
yes.
Michael Jackson died because they wouldn't accept their doctor's advice because they were so rich and powerful they decided to keep getting the pain medications anyway.
Yes, that's
Kobe
true.
Bryant, kind of, he wouldn't have died in a helicopter accident unless he was so rich and powerful that he could kind of give the nod and kind of override the pilot's judgment and things like that.
Yeah, sometimes money is the great deal of problem. People think that money can really do everything, in which in all matters it can do everything, and sometimes the things that money does is unfortunately very harmful.
And that was a big factor in this event. Every one of those people were super rich. The richest man from Pakistan, a billionaire. Um, I have a feeling if those people weren't super rich, they wouldn't be in that situation.
Yes.
And so, I think, you can't you can't blame your life on everybody else. And they put themselves in that position. They even signed off on it. They actually were able to think about it, make a decision, sign a paper. And so why are they not deserving of that fate? It's the same as
Yes.
like if somebody said, I'm going to climb on the wing of an airplane and do acrobats, and then they fall off. Do they not deserve that fate?
True. You've got a point. I was going to say, like, my preferred stance was yes as well, because I think that, cause and consequence relationship, right? If you've thought about the consequences and you still try to do it, it's kind of your decision. It's kind of, you know, no
Are
nobody
you
else is
saying
doing
I
this to
won
you.
you over with my debating skill?
Am I?
All right, all right, all right. We'll move on. Anyway, good discussion. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit callous. You know, I do feel for them, especially that teenager. But at the end of the day, like, whose business is it? Who's you know whose fault is it? When you make a decision, like, he could have said no. That the
Yeah.
best friend of the billionaire actually paid the down payment to go in this submersible, and when he saw it, he backed out. And now you see him in interviews because he
Ooh.
survived, right? He said, wait a second, this thing is made out of what? Home Depot products. They stuck a screen on the back that you can buy in Best Buy. They use a PlayStation remote to drive it around. He said, I'm out. And so that guy deserved his fate to
Yeah.
survive because he used his good
Yeah.
common sense judgment and didn't let his billionaire kind of facade, like kind of cloud his judgment.